I read once that when you're lost in the darkness, you should focus on the light. But there is no light waiting for us in this deep, sprawling wilderness. We took more than we needed from this planet for so long. Too long. The world was spoiled. We tried to fix it, but we unleashed a blight on this earth instead. The season of fear had begun. Many were twisted into horrors. More died. Everyone suffered. Mother Nature is a bitch, but we deserved it. Somehow, I managed to survive those days, up to the season of struggle. Run, hide, fight, survive. Repeat. Mark my words, a new season is about to come. Be scared.
Are able to speak English, and if our English is the yellow from the egg, like we say in German. And I would like to introduce you, my dear friend Tommaso De Benetti. I butchered it.
No, you actually didn't. You didn't.
Chaka.
Very good.
And I would like to introduce you, but first, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for your time and talking with us about Dead Air Seasons. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was really interesting to know there was a community out there excited about this game I knew nothing about. So I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, we are really excited, and our community is too. We just saw in the chat in Discord that the people are very interested. So let's just start right in. How about that?
Absolutely.
And I would like to introduce you first and ask the question. Yeah, introduce yourself. Who are you in the world of the pen and papers and TTRPGs? What do you do?
All right. So my name, as you heard, is Tommaso De Benetti. I'm Italian. I live in Finland. I've been living in Finland for more than 15 years now. I still speak very poor Finnish. It's a very difficult language. I work here. My main job during the day is I work in a video game studio. And doing tabletop RPGs has been a hobby of mine since I was 9, I think. So I'm 39 this year. So I guess it's 30 years of RPGs. And a few years ago, with a friend, I decided, why don't we make one? And so we started to work on a couple of projects. That went well. Then we did some more. And a couple of years ago, in 2020, we decided to make an actual company called the Anvil Publishing. And well, technically speaking, we have several titles. I think we are about a dozen by now. But since we exist as a company, before it was more like a label and we were all working as freelancers on this stuff, we've been publishing Broken Tales, which is also our first game in English. And Dead Air Seasons is going to be the second one. And hopefully going forward, every game we publish is going to be also in English.
Yeah, we hope to. So we are big fans of Broken Tales already, and I told that the other day, just right when I saw Dead Air Seasons, I was just hyped, and when I saw you guys do it, I was totally excited. I was mind blown. So thank you very much for this one. And let's just start in with Dead Air Seasons, and I would like to ask you, what exactly is Dead Air Seasons? What is it about? What's the setting? What's going on in there?
Right. So first of all, I work on this project as the creative director. That's my position inside the Word Anvil. What it means is that I usually evaluate the ideas for projects, and then when we decide, okay, we're gonna do this, I'll try to establish the guidelines on how this should play and how it should look, and then usually I let other people to work on the game, and then I come in just to annoy them and say, no, I want that made in that certain way, etc. And it's an important position because I think that I work with a lot of talented people, but if you ever worked with artists, you'll know that sometimes they need a bit of direction, because it's very easy to spend years doing something that doesn't work, or maybe it works really well but it's not something you can actually sell on the market. The games that you make for people to purchase need to have certain requirements. For example, uh, do we need a very specific art style that will appeal to certain people or not? Or when we decided to do Dead Air seasons, we could go in many directions, like very realistic, very abstract. We decided to go with this thing that is a bit painterly, maybe. And I think it has been a winning bet for us, because many people told me, okay, we've been kind of attracted by the game because of how it looks. And that's also, if you know how Broken Tales looks, that's also a very distinctive feature of that game, that when you see a picture from it, it is from that game and not from any other game. That's a very important thing I'm trying to get with all our games, that if you look at them, it's one of ours. So Dead Air Seasons, how what's the origin story? Back in 2017, we did our first crowdfunding campaign for a generic RPG system called the Monad system, and a setting for it, which was a science fiction setting. I actually have them over there if you want me to grab them. Um, but the campaign went really well at the time. Kickstarter wasn't very established in Italy, and at the time when we did it, it was the most funded campaign for a game that was just in Italian, so not Italian and English. So we did very well with that, and one of the stretch goals that we unlocked, because the main product was this generic system, um, we also wanted to unlock more settings to show people, okay, you can do science fiction, you can do fantasy, you can do post-apocalyptic. So one of the stretch goals we unlocked became this little book that you see here, called Dead Air, I giorni della piaga, that means the days of the blight. This is not the game we are selling now. This is not it.
Yeah, sure.
This is not it, but this is like the prequel. Let's call it that way. So this is like maybe a hundred, actually less, 80 pages book. It explores a bit that idea, but it doesn't go as far as we would have wanted. So after some time, we decided, okay, now I think it was 2019. We introduced a streamlined version of the system. Is called Monad Echo, which is the system you find now in Dead Air Seasons and in all our other games. The idea there was that the system would fit inside the books together with the setting, because before we had one book for the system, one book for the setting. And that was interesting. It allowed us to do certain things, but it was also a limit a bit on how easy it would be for people to get the books and play them. So we decided to do this streamlined version. Monad Echo was written under my direction by Alberto Tronchi, which is the main author of Broken Tales. And we use it also in Dead Air Seasons. And one idea was, hey, now that we have this system, why don't we revisit that idea of Dead Air and take it further? So Dead Air Seasons is what I call a soft reboot, because you absolutely don't need to know the previous game. It is for those who know it. I think we sold maybe at 200 copies of this, so there's not many people. For those who know it, there are some references here and there in the book, but you don't need to know anything about it, because Dead Air Seasons is set 10 years after the apocalypse has happened, and the apocalypse consists in humanity trying to clean up all the garbage and radiation and pollution that we're very familiar with in real life, using this kind of spore. And in the beginning, it seemed to work. It was absorbing all the pollution, and this is based on things that actually exist, because there are actually mushrooms that absorb radiations. There are experiments with bacteria that are eating plastic. So this is something that is not true, but could be true very easily. Um, and what happens is that at some point this goes in the wrong way, and this force starts to have an unexpected effect, which is like to embolden the nature and transform the nature around us. And what happens is that nature starts to take over the environment and starts to take over living beings, starting from the humans and then extending also to animals, etc. And the the inspiration from that came also from the 2 years of COVID that we had. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Back in Italy, I come from very close to Venice. During COVID, what happened is that during one of the first lockdowns, after a couple of weeks of lockdown and the boats not being in the lagoon of Venice, they started to have dolphins in the
Heard of that?
canals, which is never heard. Never, like I didn't even know there were dolphins anywhere near the lagoon. So that's well, Rome is very famous for having boars, but that's related. That's related to garbage, actually.
Yeah.
Um, and now that I live in Helsinki, I remember during the lockdown, they had problems with wolves that were coming close to the city outskirts. And like when you have kindergartens and things like that, you need to be a bit careful because wolves would attack children, definitely. So it becomes quite dangerous very, very quickly. So it was kind of a demonstration that if we would just sit tight for a few months, things would change very
Yeah.
fast, and nature would take over very fast. So that's the idea behind that there's seasons. Then what we did with the focus of the game, maybe that's another question, but I need to take a break, so ask me another question.
Sure. Interesting. So we heard of it actually in Germany that the dolphins were swimming in Venezia.
Yes.
So that was a hit. Like it shook us, right? And the time in which that happened was so short. So imagining that the world in like 10 years could be overtaken by nature, right? Is a thing, is totally inspiring. So that is interesting. And right where we are at inspirations, what did actually inspire you furthermore? Like what films or TV series besides COVID, obviously?
Yeah, of course. Well, actually, the work on the game started before COVID. So when COVID was on, we were thinking, okay, is this game a good idea? Because it was so close to home that we were afraid it wouldn't work, and then we decided, okay, let's keep working on it. We'll release it when it's a better time, because those were scary months for everybody, like kind of dramatic for others. It didn't feel right, but I think now people are kind of more open to it. And this is not that kind of disease, but it kind of was close enough. When it comes to inspiration, so one thing I want to say is that to document ourselves on this game, we watched a series of documentaries that are trying to imagine what would happen to the world if men would disappear. And the conclusion to these documentaries is that it would take a very, very short amount of days before everything would be completely screwed. There are cities in the US where if some janitor or some person that is doing maintenance would not go to work for 3 days, basically the city would flood, and for 3 days. And in these documentaries they were making hypotheses. Okay, what would happen after 1 year, what would happen after 2 years and 5 years and 10 years. And if you look at another source of inspiration, we're very open about it. Like I love the Last of Us series. It's one of my favorite series of video games. It's not our only inspiration. We are looking at stuff like Station 11, both the book and the TV series. TV series better than the book, in my opinion. The Children of Men. There is a movie that I don't know how many people saw it. It's called The Girl with All the Gifts, very close to
Yes.
Dead Air. Something related to maybe The Quiet Place has some atmospheres from Dead Air. Nausicaa from the Valley of the Wind, a very famous manga. Um, what else? The Road, Sweet Tooth, if you want to have something a bit more feel good. Um, yeah, so one of the things that I loved about the Last of Us, I even have all the art books because they're so inspiring, is that especially in the second one, they really show what would happen to urban environment in a space of, I think in the game it's maybe 30 years, if I remember correctly. And I think they really studied what would happen because it's very realistic. And even a city with skyscrapers and a lot of concrete would basically break down, and nature would uh, be so aggressive on these buildings that they would turn into this kind of traps that you need to navigate. And that was something we wanted to have also in this game, because this is a game definitely about survival. And while in this previous incarnation it was well, first of all, this one is plotted when this thing is happening, and instead Dead Air season is set 10 years later. So the apocalypse happened, and now it's about how the communities are surviving. So that's the first change of the focus for the game. The second change is that why this subtitle, seasons, because we want the survivors, the players, which are a subgroup of the survivors, to play the crisis. The crises are is not normal routine tasks, is when something jeopardizes the community and they have to solve this problem. So when the players face a crisis, they can solve it in different ways. It could be, the outcome could be positive or less positive. The less positive it is, the more there is a counter in the game that advances. When that counter is complete, and it can take more than one crisis if you're working well, and just a couple of crises if you, everything you do is terrible, and the outcome, like people die, you can't get the medicine or whatever it is. So if this counter, when this counter is complete, what happens is that the season changes, and it's not this climatic season like spring, autumn, winter, etc. It can overlap, but it's not that. It means it's a season of the blight. So the blight changes the environment around the community in such a dramatic way that the community from the next seasons will have very different problems. I can give you a quick example. If the community is in a valley, and on top of the valley there is um, dam. Sorry, I was looking for the word in English. There is a dam. It could be that during the change of season, the dam breaks, and then in the next season, the community either needs to live on the water, or needs to move to a new place where to settle. So that would be a completely different season, and that's how time works in this game. You play only the important events, and then these events change the environment around you, and they change the community as well.
So it's more like a story arc, so to speak, right? Like
Yeah,
a
I think it
theme for
is.
this for the chapter, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It is that.
Yeah.
It is a game that definitely shows all the mechanics in a bit longer campaigns, maybe. uh, you can definitely play it as a one shot. We have also rules to make it more deadly, because the rules right now are made so characters have a chance to survive from one season to the other. So they're not too punishing. But if you have a much shorter time frame to play, we have also rules to make it a lot more deadly, because there are many ways players can die. They can die of like a violent death, but they can also basically be infected by this blight, that it's this spore which is in the air, but at some point you might have a certain degree of contamination that is so high that you cannot go back anymore, you cannot purge it from your body anymore, and then another set of interesting things happen at that point.
Yeah.
So like these days, just the other day, Free League announced they're working on this the Walking Dead RPG. I was a bit annoyed because it's kind of breaking our, yeah, like, and probably some of our backers are like, oh, there's gonna be the Walking Dead, so why am I doing this? And I think that honestly, this is what I really believe, that the focus of this game is much more interesting than whatever they're gonna do with the Walking Dead. I have many Free League games, but I think that one of the issues with the Walking Dead, and I've been playing, for example, most of the video games they did on the series, like the Telltale games, are very good games. I think one of the problems of the Walking Dead is that everything relies on how good the characters are and the relationship between the characters. But the apocalypse itself is kind of a boring apocalypse. It's not a special kind of zombie apocalypse. And I think what we have in Dead Air Seasons is much more interesting, because the focus is on the community. It's on how the environment changes around you. And I don't know. I think that to play for a campaign is going to be a much more interesting world than what you can have on a standard zombie game, because this is not a zombie game at all. There are what we call the Awakened, which are the monsters of the Blight, but they are not the focus of the game, and they might not even be your main opponents, because very often your opponents are going to be the other communities, and or the people inside your own community that are trying to reach certain goals. So they have certain agendas. For the most important NPCs, for example, they're going to have, we actually call it agenda. It's a set of things they're trying to achieve over time, like short period, medium term, and then longer term. And of course, if they are opposed to they might kind of
Yeah.
trying to sabotage your community from within, right?
Yeah. That's what I wanted to ask you, right? The main difference between Dead Air Seasons and things like Walking Dead or other zombie apocalypses, but I think the main difference here is the environmental part, right? Too, because the environment changed so drastically and so dramatically that the environment itself, the world itself, is getting a danger too. Besides the zombie awakened and stuff. So a simple thing like I don't know, a tiger in New York is suddenly being a problem, right? So that thing
Yeah, I
is
think to give a spotlight to that kind of danger. In the second book, that we have the core book that has everything you need to play. But if you want more stuff that are ready made for you, and or you need inspiration, and you want to drop stuff in your campaign, we have the second book called The Brave New World. And one thing we do there is that we take some teams, and we develop them into what we call sectors. These sectors are things that you can make. There are the rules in the core book. And for example, I don't know, Mia, where do you live right now? What's the
uh,
city?
in Osnabrück, it's called.
Okay, so let's
Kind of
let's
hard to
say that you
pronounce.
want let's say that you want I don't know how big is your place, but let's say that you want to develop a sector about 3 or 4 blocks around your house. You definitely have the rules to make that, and that's geographical location that is going to have some point of interest, some NPCs, some probably story hooks, and you can imagine how the blocks around your house are going to change in the case the blight hits, right? However, in this expansion, Brave New World, we're making these thematic sectors that are not tied to geography, but tied to a theme. For example, we have Terror on the Ice, which is a sector that you can place pretty much anywhere there's going to be snow and ice. So if you want to do it in Lapland, you can have it. If you want to do it in Greenland, you can have it. If you want to do it in Alaska, you can have it. Really, the only thing you need to change is the name of the NPCs, because maybe you might have a Dimitri if it is in Russia, and you can have a Jack if it's going to be in Alaska. But everything else is done for you. There's going to be story hooks and interesting situations already done for you, so your community of players can start from there, or this could be a community that they get to, and then they you can develop your stories from there. So we have like something related to ice. We have one that is imagining what would happen in this big skyscraper, a bit like the movie The Raid. I don't know if you know the series.
Yeah.
What would happen inside something like that? Or Judge Dredd also has the same idea. We are gonna have one in an island, one in a boat cemetery. So all kind of things that you probably have seen in movies, in video games, in books, but developed for you so you can actually drop your community there or use it in your stories. And if you want to make a sector of something that is familiar to you, which I think people are gonna do, and we encourage that, and I hope that people will share what they do, because it's going to be interesting to see. Of course, you can do it, and the rules are already in the core book, so you don't need the expansion for that.
Sure. Yeah, the exciting part about it is imagining your own town or a similar town in the nearby, to imagine how that changes in such an environment or such a world which is no longer ours. How you called in the game. So that's interesting. That's really cool. Super excited about that. Gonna do a little story in Osnabrück, I guess, in the future. But while we are at stories, I kind of want to touch on which stories are being told in this setting, in this universe, because you named like The Last of Us and The Walking Dead and similar franchises, and I guess it's getting pretty deep, right?
Yeah, well, I do like melancholic things. So I think one of the decisions we had to make was like, okay, what is this game about? So first of all, it's about the environment. That's something that I think everybody in the team really cares about. I actually have to say there are three authors for this game, and I'm kind of supervising. So the three authors are Luca Vanin, Federico Scatolin, and Enrico Pasotti. I need to name them because actually this is their game. But I think everybody in the team kind of agrees that climate change and environmental protection is quite important. To be honest, if I wasn't working in the video game industry, I've been always on the lookout for finding a position in some uh, company or NGO or any institution that would work with environment. Unfortunately, it's not very easy to find something that would actually also allow you to pay bills. It's very difficult combination. But so I thought that the theme of the environment and how um, it's changing around us and how it could actually wipe us out was very interesting. Um, then if we're talking about, okay, what is the idea behind this spore? I'm not 100% sure what was the inspiration for the Last of Us, but I believe that the sources are similar. If you search National Geographic on YouTube, you will definitely find at some point this video about this ant that has this fungus on her head that controls her and tries to make her go in a place with enough light, enough moisture, so this spore will grow into a full mushroom that will spread more spores and infect more ants. And that was an interesting idea, that there would be something in your brain that controls you. So that's one thing. But the other themes that we want to explore with these games, with this game, are well, first of all, the stories of people. So relationship between people in a community, the fear of the other, the not trusting each other anymore once society has broken down, and how can you keep this together um, between the characters. So we have a mechanic for that. It's called the bonds that people can explore during the game, and they can change between various characters. So usually the player characters have bonds between them, and then they also have bonds with some of the NPCs, and they can use this during the game. Yeah, and then, well, the other games is more or less what I mentioned. Like, so there is this world that has changed, and what can you look forward to when everything has broken down? So what is your community trying to achieve? Is it just pure survival, or do they have any kind of goal? Are they trying to build a better society? Are they trying to enslave the neighboring community? Are they trying to escape from bad experience that they are leaving behind? That kind of stuff. So yeah, these are the main themes that we want to look into, definitely.
Yeah, these are the pen and paper systems we really are interested in. Pen and paper info here. So the more the players decide which way to go and how to survive as a group, and what becomes of us after the apocalypse. That's a theme that really hits home with us. So that's the thing we are really excited about. And
Yeah, if I can say something, for
sure.
whoever is following the campaign right now, they might have noticed that we have this kind of interactive game with the community. We created this fictional community called the Remnants, and every week people can vote on four different problems that we call it a season, um, that these remnants are facing, trying to save themselves from their past. And it's been very interesting to see how people have voted, because one week we are going like towards total disaster, and then people are trying to steer it back into like, let's not kill everybody yet. And we are actually we haven't written the whole story, so we don't know where it's going. I know, like, tomorrow we start the third and last season. uh, we have an idea, but we actually don't know, because some of the choices are so contradicting each other that we need to come up with, okay, this is what actually happens. And it's an interesting exercise. I think it's a fairly fun game for the people that feel like voting. And in the end, whatever we come up, we end up with, it will be used in the book in some way or the others. It should be a it should be a community where players are able to start, but let's see where we go, because like last week it looked almost like everybody was killing everyone else. So let's see if there's gonna be anything left at the end, but it will be in the book in one way or the other.
Yeah. Let's see if Dead Air Seasons pulls the darkest emotions in us into the outside.
It's been interesting, an interesting
Yeah.
sociological experience.
Yeah. I bet. um, right here, I want to ask you a question regarding what makes Dead Air Seasons special in your opinion, and I would want to get a little bit deep into what makes it different in regards or in I forgot the English word.
So what do you want to say?
Vergleich. I forgot the English word.
Comparison.
Comparison. Damn it.
Yes.
In comparison to things like D&D and classical role-playing games, how does or what is the main difference for Dead Air Seasons in comparison to D&D and other classical role-playing games?
Right. So I'll put it on the table. Like, I started with D&D when I was 9. Actually, I started with the Hero Quest, and then the same week somebody told me I have something even better, and then they show me D&D, and I never stopped from there. But the truth is that I left D&D behind very quickly, because I moved to other systems quite fast. I don't know if it was because my friends had other books like Vampire, Warhammer, other stuff that probably is not published in Germany. I do have the 5th edition of D&D over there. I have to admit, it's one of the most boring RPGs that I have in my. Actually, I even have the super deluxe edition. I'm not even.
Oh wow.
Not even joking. I really tried to love
Wow.
it.
Oh,
Yeah, I
wow.
really
Okay.
I really wanted to love it, but it's so boring for me. It's so boring because it's just like reading Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And I don't want to offend anybody. I know that D&D, like, I think it has a great merit because especially this edition has brought back so many people to RPG, and I don't think it would have happened without D&D. So I'm very glad for that. But it's probably me, like it's when you have this relationship that is not you, it's me. I look for something else now in games, and so that's why we came up a few years ago with this Monad ecosystem. The first game using it is called Evolution Pulse Rinascita. We were planning to do an English translation. On our website, you can find the quick start, and then it didn't happen because we decided, no, let's do Broken Tales instead. So Broken Tales also uses it, and now Dead Air. So the difference as a system are very deep with something like D&D. I'll try to summarize maybe the more interesting points. So many systems claim to be narrative systems, but very few are actually narrative systems. In a way that I think one issue with D&D is that very often you could play it, and actually people play it with miniatures, because what it is in practice, it's a war game, like a miniature game with some role-playing things. But you could just say, I'm gonna hit the red dragon, and then you roll, and then if you score the right number, then you did it. And this doesn't work with our system because well, let me start from the beginning. First of all, the creation of the character is reversed compared to many role play games. So, first of all, you start from a concept. You have to describe your character in words and not in numbers. Uh, you need to write a sentence or a bullet point list of what your character actually is. And then, once you have that description, from there, you can extrapolate what we call descriptors. These are things that your character can do well, and they always also have a dark side, like we call it a downside. In Dead Air, they are related to 4 steps of background, which cover basically your past and where you're trying to go, right? So there are 4 steps that are related to these stages. So what you learned around along the way, where you are now in your life, what you're looking forward, and what was your past. So you write these sentences, and then you find a downside for them. So these are the things you do well and the things you do less well. Only then, when you have all this stuff, so far we haven't looked at any number. Only when you have this stuff, you go into your decide which archetypes of the that are available in the game fit your character, and you can combine 2 of them. This gives a lot of combinations of possible combination of characters, and from these 2 archetypes, you can select gifts that are basically special abilities that somehow fit what you have told about your character. Okay, so you start from very high level and then you go into the mechanics. These gifts also start to give you numbers that then you will use during the game. In this case, they give you soma points. The stronger the gift is, the less soma it gives you, and vice versa. And then you select from certain profiles your attributes. Like I don't remember how many we have right now because every Monadeco game has a different number here, but I think it's 3. So there are some profiles that you attach to the attributes of your character, and this is more or less how character creation works in brief. Okay, and then maybe one of the interesting things is that you never say, like sometimes it happens in D&D, even like some people role play it and it's fine, but it doesn't matter, because if they wouldn't do it, they would do exactly the same action. Here, actually, you have to describe not only what you're doing, but how. And the reason for that is because once you have a character that is so detailed in the things that they can do or cannot do, the master, in this case we call it master of the blight, can tell you, look, you don't even need to do a check for this, because your character is good at this stuff, and you just do the thing. However, if the situation is such that there is an element of uncertainty, the master can tell you, okay, listen, you need to do a position check, because you're trying to put your character in a different narrative position within the scene. At that point, and here is one of the main differences with many games, is that you as a player have to decide how well you are trying to succeed in this action. Very often in other games, first you roll and then you know how well you did. But here you are trying to aim for a certain number beforehand. And that's why, that's because um, there are three different type of outcomes you can aim to. One is the outcome with a cost, then there is the standard outcome, and then there is the outcome with an increment. The first one means that you managed to do what you were trying to do, but something negative happens that you weren't expecting. It could be that some of your equipment breaks, it takes more time, you lose something on the way, whatever. The standard outcome is like things happen exactly how you describe them, and the outcome with an increment means that not only it happens how you described it, but also something positive extra happens that you can use to your advantage. And that can be many things. Sometimes even some gifts allow you to do extra things if you have this increment to spend. And the way you are trying to reach these different outcomes is that the master of the blight is giving you an opposition level, which is a difficulty level, right? And the way you get to that difficulty level is that you take your base attribute, okay? You're going to have a certain number, let's say 3 on, I don't know, determination. You're going to have 3 in determination. But the current check that you're doing requires that you get at least to 5. So if you get to 5, it's going to be an outcome with a cost. If you get to 6, it's going to be a standard outcome. And if you get to 7, it's going to be an outcome with an increment. So if you start from 3 and you aim for a standard outcome, it means 6, then you have this 3 points gap to fill. And you can fill that in different ways. So one is spending this finite resource called Soma, which gives you automatic successes. So you can just say, okay, I spent 3 Soma, and then you're there, and then your action is resolved. You haven't even rolled any die. The problem is that Soma is scarce. It takes some time to recover it. So you might want to keep some for later, for maybe like a very critical checks that you need for them to succeed. The other option you have is that you roll dice, and you can roll as many dice as you want. However, if you get a 1 on any of the dice, sorry, this is a difficult word to make plural, the whole action fails. So the mechanic there is that, yeah, you can roll more and try to achieve the higher outcome, but the more dice you roll, the more probable it is that you get a failure. And if you get even just a 1, then the whole thing fails. There's another thing. You can mix Soma and dice. So you can try to lower your risk, saying that, okay, I spent two soma and I rolled one die, because if you roll only one die, you only have one possibility out of six to fail. Right? There are some more things, like we have three different type of dice. Some are some can fail more often than others, but the basics, these are the basics, right? So this is one of the main differences with other systems. And yeah, maybe the last one I can mention, and then I will want to stop boring people, is that we don't have HPs like in many games. We have wounds, and there are only three. They can be more if you accept some permanent damage to your to the body of your character. But basically, these wounds are not these glorified HPs. They're not just wound one, wound two, wound three. They are basically they are descriptors. When you are wounded, uh, you have to write it down on your character sheet, because it will influence the difficulty of the checks you're gonna do from now on. So, for example, if one wound is blinded by one eye, it means that in the future, if you're trying to spot somebody and you're still blinded by on one eye, it will be much harder for you to do it. If you're bleeding, you have I don't know, a slash across your thigh, and you're bleeding and you're trying to escape in the forest and somebody's following you. First of all, they're gonna see the blood, and then you're probably not very fast. So that's the difference with HPs, which are basically a number that goes up and down. Here they have a narrative impact on what happens in the story. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the game. I had the honor to test it already 2 or 3 times with in a one-on-one session, and I really want to point out that the whole thing is narrative. So all the systems, as you mentioned, are narrative, and I really, really love that. Our community is really focused on these kind of games like narration and telling stories point blank, right? And with that system, it's totally possible, and I love that about it. And the other thing I want to point out is that it's unbelievably risky, which I really love about that. So I had this session where um, uh, the guy just tried to over exaggerate. Right, he was confident. He pulled some good rolls, and with that one final roll, he succeeded in dying finally. So it was the one time he got overconfident and tried to manipulate the dice and add some more like you would usually do. So that's kind of risky, and I love that about it. It's great.
When you go into the specifics, it helps if you understand mathematics really well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But of course you don't have to. However, usually the rule is that the more dice you roll,
Yeah,
the more likely it is that things go really bad.
yeah,
So it's an interesting game, because sometimes you're like, okay, should I spend some an hour? Should I keep it for later because I don't know what happens later? And well, there are interesting situations happening. But one thing we notice is that, for example, when you're a beginner in the system, and you're coming especially from another system, many players don't want to try the outcome with a cost, because they feel the cost is going to be something negative. We don't want it. But then really quickly you realize that if you don't make compromises, you're not going to survive this, because that soma goes so fast.
oh yeah,
And then you start to live with the idea that, okay, something can go wrong here, and maybe makes the story more interesting,
yeah, and it
which is
forces you
what
to
happens
to
usually.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it forces you to narrate more, like deal with consequences and try to survive. Like it fits the setting, right? So that's really a thing I really like about the game, and it really transports the apocalypse theme, right? Because every system, like I don't know, apocalypse world or something like that, it tries to emulate the narration and tries to emulate the dangers of apocalypses. But with Dead Air Seasons, I feel it's right there. It's all narrative. It's all risky. It's all trying to survive in the world you don't own anymore. And I really, really, really like that about the system and about the quick start.
Yeah, one thing I can add that it's maybe not clear from the campaign is that communities work in the same way as characters. So you build them exactly in the same ways. They also have a description, they also have descriptors, they have the gifts, and the characters that the playing characters can use some of the gifts of the community when they're doing their missions because they can support it. So if the community changes, it is important for the characters as well.
Yeah. Bless you, Red, by the way. Just saw
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, I really feel that, and it's the first apocalypse game where I really feel everything has a meaning. You need to implement everything you have to survive, like the community, all the resources you have there. May it be like, I don't know, tools or companions or whatever, and that's really inspiring and really lets you tell stories which I feel have never been able to be told in that way, in that mechanical way, you know. So that's really exciting. With that out the way, with the mechanics out the way, kinda. I would like to ask you about inspirations for people who would want to get right into Dead Air seasons. What would you say are good inspirational sources for people to look after to tell stories their own? Like, I don't know, you already mentioned The Last of Us, but are there any other sources?
Yeah, well, actually, I think everything we have on the campaign page, I think would be
Yeah.
something that that would be useful. One that I didn't mention before is Annihilation. You find the movie on Netflix. So there's a series of books which is called the Southern Reach, something like that. I actually haven't read the books. I just saw the movie. But that it's a very colorful science fiction post-apocalyptic movie, and it was a great inspiration visually for how the game would look, because we also wanted to make not that kind of grim, dark gray post-apocalyptic game, because it's very easy to go there, and we do have a little bit of that because you kind of have to, but we also wanted to have a game that feels green, that has flowers, and then the like that you can see death with flowers on it, right? So that is a great visual inspiration. Then I mentioned, like, if you want something a bit more lighthearted but also still in the same vein, Sweet Tooth is another great series. I think it's actually it is based on a comic. I haven't read the comic, but you can watch the Netflix series, and I think you will be up to speed. Children of Men, older movie about the fact that people cannot have children anymore, and the society collapses. A very good movie. The two, A Quiet Place, are a great inspiration. As I mentioned, I saw that there was somebody appreciating it also in the chat. The Girl with All the Gifts is a movie that not many people have seen, so it's a great one. Station 11, I don't know how many, like HBO has a TV series which I really liked. Um, Also because it's a bit more reflective kind of apocalypse there. It's the story of caravan of artists going around in a certain path to do theater shows in a world that has gone completely wrong because of a sort of contagion. And that's also an interesting perspective. And we used it as inspiration, for example, for the community that is in the quick start scenario railway. Um, the book is a bit more boring, in my opinion, but you can try that as well. What else? I mean, I would be a liar if I would say that I haven't looked at other things like The Walking Dead. I have, I have definitely, and I like them quite a lot. And to go back to what I was saying before, I'm sure Free League will do a fantastic job. Like, all their games are really good. But when it comes to what can you actually do with this setting, I'm quite sure we have a better game without seeing theirs, because it's just the setting allows so much more freedom compared to a standard zombie apocalypse. Oh yeah, well, one book that you absolutely want to read is World War Z.
Oh
um,
yeah.
if you saw the movie, it's not what's what the book is, because the book actually does this interesting thing that depicts the zombie apocalypse one nation at the time, or one place at the time, and each place has a different, very different issue, and that will give you so many ideas for
Yeah.
playing Dead Air Seasons.
That's what I would want to mention. Yeah, World War Z
Yeah.
is right there on the alley. It's fantastic for different kind of perspectives, different kind of inspirational ideas. So that's a good idea. Um, we were at the theme of quick starts, and I would want to ask you how to start with Dead Air Seasons. So right now, are there any possibilities for players or the community to get right into it?
Well, I mean, yeah, you can. Well, if you go on the campaign page, you can download the quick start straight from there. No sign up, no email, nothing. You just go there and download it, and it's there.
Yeah.
You find it on Drive Through RPG. You find it on our website, and it's free. It's about 60, 70 pages. Gives you an idea of the layout, gives you an idea of the teams, the rules, and there is a full scenario. The scenario that you find there is the first part of a longer campaign that it's also in the crowdfunding campaign, and which is called the Daughter of the Blight. So in the campaign we have two more acts, and we'll probably extend a bit to the first one, because especially the part of the Nemes community was much longer. We had to kind of compress it a bit because it was becoming huge. So I think we might put some of that stuff back into the final book. Then, if you are interested in playing games in English, I believe that if we gather enough players, you can come on the Word Anvil publishing server, and we can try to organize a game. I have announced today that for the backers of the campaign, there's going to be a funders package. If you back at the 49 euros level or higher, you get this as well. It includes the solo mode of the game, so you'll be able to play by yourself in a way that for anyone who has Broken Tales, the expansion to Broken Tales, the broken ones, uh, um, we're gonna do it in a similar way. It's written by the same author, Alberto Tronchi, which is the guy who wrote Broken Tales. So this would be his fourth solo mode with us. So we're very confident that it's going to be very good. And then on top of the solo mode, there's going to be two scenarios. One is called Sweet Home, and the other one is called Wolf Size. I had to think about it. And these are scenarios that we have been using in playtesting. They're really good, and they're for shorter sessions, but they're going to be free for backers of the campaign. And I think that if you come to our server, maybe we can play one of these. If we have enough people. I know that there's a game in English. Honestly, I don't know exactly when it is, but one was already being organized, so
Yeah.
it would be probably easy to find a spot in there.
Sure. Or you can just type in exclamation mark dead in the chat right now. So you can find the Backer Kid campaign right there in the chat. And for you guys on the YouTubes, you can find it right in the description, or as you might be at the Backer Kid campaign website, you already are there. So never mind on that one. But there you can find everything you need and every detail about that air seasons. So, one last question I got for you, and that would be, when could we expect that air seasons to be released?
Yeah, so this is always hard to predict, but I can tell you what we're trying to do. Something similar to what we did to Broken Tales. So Broken Tales, actually, when we did the campaign of Broken Tales was a lot less ready than Dead Air is now. So at the moment, the core book of Dead Air is completely written and it's in editing, Italian editing right now. We need to translate it. We need to do the English editing. It's about 300 pages. It's a long process, but the game is there and it's done. The expansion is written maybe for 80%, something like that. We are waiting to see because some things are unlocking right now, so we have to work on the stretch goals. But we are in a much better place than we were with Broken Tales when we started Broken Tales. We need to see because there are some things that not everybody in the team can work at the same speed. Like, for example, illustrations tend to be quite slow coming along. So the more material we unlock, the more illustrations we're going to need. So there might be some extra time needed for illustrations and layout. In my experience, the longest thing is not even the translation itself, but the editing of the translation takes a long time because we go over the text many times. And I'm very proud of how our books are coming out because there are very few typos in our books. And that's something that, because I hate them, so I'm trying to go over the books like until like I just can't look at them anymore. Like Broken Tales, I can't even look at it anymore. I hate it. I hate it because I've been reading it so many times. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the longest thing. And then illustrations is it's always one of the longest process, even because the illustrator we are working with now, Samuele Zardinoni, I believe he doesn't do this full time, so there are some but to come back to your question, I think it's quite likely that we're gonna have the PDFs of the core offer by the summer of 2023. And then it might be maybe not the final version, but the beta, because we find it very useful when also the backers take a look and tell us, hey, there's a mistake here. Because anything we can fix, we will fix it. So if people are very eager to read the book and they spot something, they can help us. Like we did this with Broken Tales. It was super useful. And the result is that the final book is better for everyone. So as soon as we have the files, we're going to release them for the backers. And then I've been learning, especially right now, the part about printing and shipping takes so long that I think we started, we received the books of Broken Tales in August. And they like we worked nonstop trying to deliver them, and I think they got to Germany a week ago. UK is sending maybe next week. United States just docked at the port, and it's December, but we started in August, so it is so slow. We are working with fulfillment partners. They are handling many projects, and to be honest, worldwide shipping is very dysfunctional at the moment. I'm even surprised that things get to your door anyway, because like if you could see how difficult this is, like it's embarrassing.
I can imagine.
How like I don't think I never compiled so many papers for import export as like I don't know, hundreds of documents we dumped for to get. So it is very slow, but we're trying to hit the next, like in a year from now. I think it's quite realistic, at least for some areas of the world. It might be that if you live in the Philippines, you're gonna wait a bit longer. Australia is gonna. I know that the boat for Broken Tales is gonna get there in December, and that's not even when they get the packages. Just the stuff is in Australia in December, because like when you put something on a boat, just the boat, it takes 1 month or like 6 weeks to travel the ocean, because they stop in many ports and they have other cargoes. It's not that they just go there. Because transporting things with the plane would mean that I would have to charge backers maybe 5-6 times what I charge them now. For like the prices are just insane,
ridiculous.
like ridiculous. Yeah, no, You would have been like, this is something that I can tell. Compared to when we did the Broken Tales campaign in May 2021, the shipping for United States has doubled. So um, at the time, I was asking 15 euros for each backer, and we ended up paying close to 30 per backer.
Oh wow.
So and this is like the cheapest, slower possible way of delivering, and it's the only one we can afford because it's twice as much as we expected. So you gotta wait.
Yeah.
But
It
we
hurts
will
to
do
hear,
it
but
as we will do it as fast as possible. I try to communicate. Well, whoever is following the campaign now knows that I've basically been sending one update a day. It's
yeah.
not gonna be this intense after the campaign, but I'm very, like, I send quite a lot of updates, so people never feel like they don't know what's happening.
Yeah. And we can really trust it because some of us just backed Broken Tales a while ago. So never mind. We trust you. And we can't wait for Dead Air seasons to arrive. So you got me. I think you got Red on this point too, and our whole community, anyways, as we can be quite infectious. So
Yeah.
Dead
I'm
Air
glad to hear
seasons
it.
infected our Discord. So we can wait. Um, that would be me for my questions on at this point. But we got some questions from the viewers, and I would gladly appreciate if some of you just, if you have some questions, you can just type in the chat, and we are going to translate them. If you are going to post it in German, so don't be shy. Type in your questions. But I think Red, you got some questions beforehand, right?
Yes, I already got 4 questions.
4 questions already.
Yes. And I think we can start with the first one.
Sure.
Okay. Lucas asked, what dynamic did you try to achieve with the special rolling system, or rather, how does the rolling support the stories you want to support the stories you want groups to tell?
So I think, well, this is an interesting question because the system itself, it's not made specifically for this game. It is adapted to this game. So some of the mechanics of the system are common to other games, and some instead are tackled specifically to Dead Air seasons. For example, we have a completely new mechanic about scavenging in Dead Air seasons. I haven't yet covered it in the campaign. I was planning to. I didn't have time yet because there were more important things to do. But we have one mechanic that is just about scavenging that we don't have in any of the other games. But what we're trying to do with that mixed mechanic of dice and soma is to create that risk feeling that, are you going to use the scarce resources that you have now, or you're going to risk failing horribly in this action. So that, I think, works really well. One thing that I kind of mentioned briefly before is that compared to Broken Tales, that has only one type of die, Dead Air Seasons has three. We have the standard one, which works as I mentioned. So every result except one is a success. Then we have the advantage die, which is a die that even if it rolls one, it doesn't make the whole action fail, and all the other phases are successes. What this does is that because you have to pick the outcome of your action beforehand, and if you're rolling one advantage die, you might end up with a degree of success which is lower than what you were expecting. So if you're trying to get a standard, you might get a success with a cost, but the action doesn't fail. And then we have the drawback dice, which actually fail with 1 and 2, and those are very dangerous, and you cannot remove them from your hand in any way. You have to roll them. So these three type of dice, they are added to your pool uh, according to costs, increments, and other things that can happen in the game. For example, some enemies can give you these kind of dice, and you have to roll them. Their gifts can do this to your thing. So I think the if we limit ourselves to the rolling mechanic, I think it fits this game really well because it does make every check very risky, and that's why you want to describe your action very carefully, because you might, if you are smart about what you're good at and what you're not good at, you might be able to complete an action without actually having to do a check.
Yeah, and in my experience, I can really add to it. It's so damn funny if you see your players like being overconfident and trying to overwhelm the obstacles or something like that, and they realize that it's not a normal game, not a real, not like every other game, you know. And when that one time, the one hits really hits home with them, where they realize that it's over, like, you know, they are practically dead or something drastic happens. That's where it really hits home with GMs out there, I guess. I think that will really um be a thing.
Yes. Then I think we can go to the second question, right?
Sure.
Nice. So this is in German. I have to translate it, but I can do it. So Torsten asks, so this is a really dystopic setting, but isn't it like, doesn't it have like a back to nature touch, which is maybe just like utopic?
Utopic, yeah.
Utopic? So it's like a philosophical question.
I think he wants to point out that if the story, you can tell, can be utopic in a way because the back to nature touch is in the flesh of it, right?
Yeah, so one good thing that you can do here is that you can depict this however you want, in a way that according to the kind of community and character that you develop, you can also decide that the blight has been a good thing, and it was the proper thing to happen to humanity, because whatever reason you can come up with, because humanity deserved it, because nature needs to come back, because you believe that the blight is a goddess and you want to worship it. So there's no, we don't take any stance on how you are supposed to interpret what's happening with your community and around your community. So you can create any kind of character you want, and all the stories can reflect that. If you want to create a cult that um, wants to bring more people into worshiping the blight, be my guest.
That's a thing I didn't thought about. That's kind of cool to have like a cult of the blight, which supports the blight and worships it like a god. That would be cool.
That
Damn,
sounds like
don't
a
thought.
great storyline for Micha.
Yeah, just imagining a storyline right here.
Very
But
nice.
like to give you an example, like we've been doing very different stories because during one of the playtests, one community was completely secluded in an underground bunker uh, that was ruled by three elders, which forbid anyone to go outside. So they didn't know what was happening outside until, unfortunately, some manifestation of the blight managed to enter inside this bunker and infected the I
Some
forget the
something.
English word. That no, they had like some kind of garden inside. Like the word is some kind of
Oh, I
green
know.
garden. Is it
Yeah,
green garden? Yeah, where
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you grow your vegetables and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the blight started to manage to get in and infect some of the food they were eating, and then it started to happen inside the bunker, and no one was allowed to go outside. So what people know about the blight and what do they know about the outside world, it's up to you. If you want a movie that is completely unrelated to zombie apocalypse, etc., but can give you great ideas, you should check this Dogtooth. It's from the same director that did, I forget his name, but he did also this The Favorite. He did The Killing of a Sacred Deer. That's his first movie. He's a Greek director. It's a Dogtooth. It's a movie that made my head explode. It's a movie about a family that teaches their children all the wrong stuff. Like they tell that, okay, this is a telephone and you use it to put on your pasta or something like that, right? So the children grow up believing all this wrong stuff, and they think like when they go in the garden, they think that if they exit the house, the floor is going to be lava. They believe all these things because that's what their parents have been teaching them. And that gives a lot of ideas for what you can do with dead air in a situation where some people might have been born after the blight. They might not know what it was before. So you can basically tell them whatever you want, right?
So
So
cool.
That's great.
And the director is Yorgos Lanthimos, right?
yes,
That's
that
what he
guy.
was called. Yeah, the
All
Killing
his
of a
movies
Sacred
are
Deer. Yeah,
all his movies are good, but the
yeah.
first one, Doc, I think it's called Kinodontes in original, the Greek. I'm improvising. I think I remembered. It was called Kinodon. In English, is Dogtooth.
Yeah,
Nice.
awesome.
That
Taking
sounds.
notes right now just to remember all the all the great storylines here.
Yeah, and just add all the movies to the watch list.
Yeah, sure. I really wanted to point out Annihilation right now. Sorry, I forgot about that because our community is very interested in Lovecraft-esque cosmic horror-ish storylines. So Annihilation I would really like to point it out because it is really Lovecraft-esque and
Yes.
Lovecraftian in its feeling and the aesthetics of it. You should really check it out for inspiration for Dead Air seasons and in general. Annihilation. That's a movie you should check out just for the optics, for the feeling. Very very nice film.
Yeah, when we did the mood board on how the game
Yeah.
should look, we have several pictures from that movie as an inspiration for what we want people to feel when they look at Dead Air.
Yeah, I just as I saw the cover for Dead Air seasons, I just felt myself reminded of that skeleton which grew into the wall with all these fungi and stuff, right?
That was definitely one of the things we looked at.
Oh, I
So
love that shot. That's so
it's
beautiful.
you got the reference. I
Yeah.
was also very impressed by that.
Yeah,
I thought
stuck with my
it was
head.
really cool. I thought it was
Yeah.
really cool.
Really love the cover, by the way, for Dead Air seasons. Just
Yeah,
to...
yeah, it's great. Nice.
Do we have some other questions?
Yes, we have another question. It's from Kolschka. Are there different archetypes for communities the same way as characters?
No, that's an interesting question. No, we don't have archetypes for communities. That's an interesting question. However, like what we have is that communities have. Now I need to honestly, I don't remember the whole game by heart. But communities have three. Let me double check the files here. They have three attributes, which are resources, society, and the third one is, I need to check it. Resources, society, and we have a third one. Okay, I can find it right now. But basically, the gifts are divided according to, I think it's security, the third one. The gifts are divided according to these three attributes. So you can build the community according to that, and then it's going to have the scripters, and then um, it's going to have the concept. And one thing that happens is that when you resolve a crisis, you have a sort of community diary where you can mark down if you reached any milestone for the community, or if you reached some kind of failure that changes a bit the mood in the community, because those can be used later in the game and invoked to get advantages during the checks, or get more XPs when you bring in the things that are negative about the community to create troubles for yourself, because that's how you get XPs in this game. um, as I mentioned before, like, the characters have a downside. To get XPs, they basically have to take the things that they do badly, bring it into the game as characters, like the players have to decide, okay, I want to do this because my characters would do that, and you create troubles for yourself. And when you create troubles for yourself, you gain experience. So that creates a lot of interesting situations. And community also has this thing, and you can also use it in your checks.
Yeah, so the archetype theme is kind of already built in the community mechanics, kinda.
That's an interesting idea. We haven't really thought about having the team of the community, because the system is flexible enough that
Yeah.
you can already do more or less what you want. But I can see that there could be maybe some advantages in doing it that way, but that's not what we did. So next time, maybe.
Maybe a thing to think about, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Nice. Then we have the next question. It's again from
Because
Torsten.
sorry, just to
Oh,
say,
okay.
like that, for
Okay.
example, if you want a more authoritarian community, then maybe you would pick certain gifts from the
Yeah.
security aspect. So you can basically do that. Or if you want a community that has grows crops, then you would pick something from the resource thing. So it is flexible in a
Yeah.
way that you can do that. We don't formalize it with archetypes, but it is an interesting idea, I have to admit.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just
No, no,
thought
no.
you were, we could skip to the next question, so sorry. But I think now we can go on, right?
Sure.
Yes. So it's the next question from Torsten again, and he asked if you already know if there will be a German translation of the system, and if there's maybe already a German publisher who already bought the licenses.
No, there's not. So at the
That's
moment,
really sad.
it's gonna come in English and Italian, as far as I know.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it's really early for this question, I think.
We did get some interest for Broken Tales in German, but the conditions weren't favorable to us. Unfortunately, with the like RPG is a hobby that where the amount of money that goes around is not huge in general. Um, so many publishers are kind of one man operation, that kind of very indie. Like when you take away the big ones, I don't know, Modifius or Freeligan or I don't know, like Onyx Path, even I think is kind of small. But anyway, um, the problem with the licenses is that very often just drafting the contract with a lawyer, it's more expensive than what you would get in royalties. So just calling the lawyer is going to cost you more than giving the game. So very often it just doesn't make sense because the costs are so high to get a contract. And you want a contract because one thing that happened to us before, for one of our previous games, we had an agreement with a Brazilian publisher, that they were gonna do a crowdfunding to make our game in Brazilian, to translate the game in Portuguese, basically. And what they did is that they did the campaign, they got the money, and then they run. So we didn't
Oh,
see
wow.
we didn't see anything. Our name was attached to the operation, and nobody got their game. Like that was a terrible outcome. I don't ever want to do that again. So if there's not a contract in place that is actually enforceable, I will not give the license because very often it's just not convenient for us. Like just a lawyer is more expensive than what I can actually get out of the operation. And like when you work so much on a project, you actually do want to get something.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, that's really sad for us
Hey, but
German
hey, I
people,
haven't I
but
haven't said that
maybe.
it might
Yeah.
happen. It might happen
Yeah.
if somebody's
Yeah.
interested, and it has reasonable terms, so we can discuss it.
Yes.
So here's the thing. We already did a translation for the Hogwarts RPG from English to German. Maybe we can talk about it later.
Maybe, but what is the biggest publisher in Germany? I'm not even sure.
Oh, that's a good question.
Um,
Oh,
I,
that would be
I think
Ulysses, I guess.
yes, I guess.
Ulysses Publishing.
Okay.
That would be the name to consider, I think. That's the biggest that I can think of. Maybe the chat knows better, but maybe Ulysses.
Well, usually what happens is that the bigger ones just go with the very big brand names, so D&D or
Yeah.
Warhammer or that kind of stuff. So, but you never know because there's been exceptions, and definitely uh, some of our games might come out in other languages, but I cannot tell anything else.
We'll see. All right. Do we have another?
Okay.
Do we have another? Do we have another question?
Yes, we have another
English.
question.
Damn it.
Yeah, it's really late, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe last question is from Modern Occu. I
Occultist.
yes, this exactly this. He asked or she asked if there or will there be a sample play session on YouTube or anything, because he or she would love to because he or she loves the vibe of this game and can't wait for the books.
Yeah, there is actually on the campaign page. When you go in the video section, I think the first couple of videos are in English, so you can check those. And I was planning to release another um, gameplay video in this week, basically, because word to say the campaign ends on November 30. So this one is the last full week, and then I think the 30th is next Wednesday. I need to check. I lost track of time, but next week the campaign ends. So if you're interested, now is the best time to enter for price wise for the stuff you get and to support us. It's really important to enter now. So do it.
Yes. Please do. And we can say, Theresia, we should say, we are planning on doing some shenanigans with Dead Air Seasons when it hits. So we are hyped
Yes.
as you might imagine, and we can't we cannot not do a actual play of Dead Air Seasons. So obviously we're gonna do like something
Awesome.
with that.
Yeah. Maybe we've already planned some.
Oh,
Maybe.
maybe we plan some things behind the curtains, but we won't tell. All right, that's the final question, or do
Yes,
we have?
that was the final
That was
question.
it.
Right.
All right. So that will be a close, I guess, for Dead Air Seasons. And I would say thank you very much, Tommaso, for your time and hanging in with us and talking about Dead Air Seasons. Are there any last words you would want to say to our community?
Yes,
This
I'm
moment.
very tired, and not just today. Just this whole campaign. Like this weekend, I've been having fever. I think I've been working a bit too hard, but I'm good now. So running a crowdfunding campaign, it's very difficult, very intense. But it's something that I can do maybe once a year. So you can expect other games from us if everything goes well.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, you can check out the World Anvil Publishing or just type in !dead or visit our website. There you can find a funded page in our blog, so you can check that out to get all the links, all the information you need to back Dead Air Seasons. And please do. It's an awesome game. I checked out the quick start and I played it, and it's awesome. It's a really cool setting, and you should really check it out and have a play for yourselves in a world that's no longer ours. And yeah, thank you very much, Tommaso. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for inviting me.
And
Thank
have a
you.
nice evening. You guys out there, have a nice evening. Have a nice chill out. And we'll see you next time at the Discord or wherever you want to watch us. See you. Till then. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
My hand kind of froze right there.